Hi there, Professor Goldbug here. Welcome to another episode. In this episode, we're going to look into gold gear. I have a collection of gear I've purchased over the years. Lots of it I don't use anymore. Some of it I use exclusively. So let's go through it and find out what makes a reasonable collection of gold gear as opposed to just buying gear for no other reason than I was told it was good. You'll find that there's lots of stuff hyped as being the be-all end-all for gold. As you've probably seen in previous videos, I looked at gold relative to all its peers, meaning lead, silver, iron, even common rocks. It is so much more dense at specific gravity of 19.3, so round that off to 19. It's 19 times heavier than water. Iron is about 5. So it's almost 4 times heavier than iron. It just wants to settle. It just wants to sleep. It has no interest in going anywhere. So if you use pretty simple equipment with good technique in an area that has gold, you'll recover gold. What I found over the years is that the good gold will get trapped. The really small stuff you'll lose if you're not really careful. Not that the small stuff is worth nothing, but it doesn't really add up very quickly. So losing a few big pieces is a lot more important than a lot of small stuff. So I think what most seasoned gold bugs realize is that you don't need the latest and greatest, because the latest and greatest is just a reinvention of the existing. The 49ers use very crude techniques compared to today, and they extracted lots of gold. Were they 100% effective? No, but they didn't need to be because they were dealing with very high concentrations. Today, yes, you do need to be higher recovery, higher percentages, but you don't need to buy the latest and greatest that's hyped and hasn't been market tested or proven. If I were you, I'd stick with the essentials, learn your craft, and you're going to have a great time. The bottom line is you don't need to spend a lot of money to have a lot of fun. So let's go and take a look at what I have, and you can decide if it's what works for you. And it also depends what you're doing. I tend to do more stream gravel deposits as opposed to crevicing. Crevicing does require some specialized equipment. I can show you a little bit of that, but the reality is each type of gold has a little twist to it, and lode gold has a whole lot of twists that we're not going to cover in this video. So we're looking at equipment that's designed for placer gold in the majority of creek or river settings. And another key element is you want to minimize the amount of weight you're carrying into the field, because every pound adds up when you're walking a long way across uneven terrain to get to that ideal spot. And it always seems like the spot's a little further than it was last time, meaning you want to go and explore a little further. Before you know it, you're 3 miles up the stream, which means you got to hike back 3 miles the other way when your energy is not quite as high, because when you first arrive, you're bouncing off the walls because you know you're going to have the day of your life. You just can't wait to get going. It's just the nature of the beast. So let's take a look and let you decide. Come with me. So there it is. That's all the gold gear you need. As a matter of fact, you don't even need all of this. I'll go through it piece by piece. I'll explain to you what each piece does, and then we'll tell you which pieces you don't need and which pieces you can even live without. Let's get started. Okay, so which pieces of equipment don't we need? Let's start with this guy. This is a large Keen sluice. We'll talk about it at the end of the video. But I don't use it. It's heavy. It's basically overkill. It has its place, but the places I go, this will be too cumbersome to get in and out, and you don't need it. This, however, is the head flare for the same sluice, and this is what I swear by. And I've done multiple videos showing cleanouts, tests on this, and the efficacy. This thing is so efficient. There's no way that I could say anything bad about it. What's even more amazing is the size of the V-matting is ideal for trapping the gold. My Royale sluice, which you don't need either, has a much coarser V-mat. I can give you close-ups of that at the end of this video. And it doesn't seem to trap gold very well. It does trap black sand. So anyways, this is an essential. This is definitely not needed. This is rather optional. In my category, you don't need it either. So let's start taking things out we don't need, and we'll go from there. So now we're going to work through the list, starting with the most important piece and working through the list. And it kind of depends what you're doing for what you need, but the most important piece is this guy here. Without the pan, you're dead in the water. You know, honestly, you could live with the pan alone. A pan in the hand is all it takes. So this allows you to test an area to see if there's any gold there. It allows you to clean up out of the sluice. It allows you, it's multifunctional. So this one's black and it's plastic. I prefer this color over green. The green tends to get kind of abused and it changes it to a mottled color, which I don't find terribly conducive to seeing gold. So this is a must, and I would recommend 2 pans. There's always a good use for a second pan. Worst case, if this one floats down the river, you can use the less desirable one. So we got our pans. Now how do you get stuff into the pans? You need a classifier. So I like the 1/4 inch. The 1/2 inch is too coarse because I run everything through here. And this fine VMAT, this is the ideal size. So I would recommend the combination of the 1/4 inch with this fine grained VMAT. The 1/2 inch, it's too coarse, so there's no need to double process. So pick one or the other, don't pick 2. So let's get rid of this guy. So now what good is a classifier without a bucket? So these are not 5-gallon buckets. These are 2.5 or 3. So you can take what you want, but the trick is make sure the diameters are the same. If they're not, it's not going to work so good. So there's your bucket for your sediment. Now how do you get the sediment in there? Yeah, you could use a plastic trowel. I wouldn't. I only feed the sluice with this. They're pretty delicate. Get a burley shovel. Spend 50 bucks. Get a good one because they get abused. This thing works as a pry bar. This thing is amazing. So this is an Ace Hardware one. I like it a lot. I'd recommend it. Lots of guys use little micro shovels. I find those to be a pain in the ass. This has a really stout handle. So it's user friendly and it's burly. And those are 2 key ingredients. So this is a must. So once you get your gravel in here, you need to flush it with water. So there you go. So you got 2 buckets. So classifier, 2 buckets, 2 pans and a shovel, and you're pretty much off to the races. And then to process it, you need this guy here, or I recommend this guy, or some version of a sluice. So this is my particular cup of tea. So we got a lot of other stuff here. What's it good for? You got to feed your sluice. So this little plastic guy, I love him. They come in different shapes, but this guy I love. So what if the digging gets really tough, which is common because there's always boulders. So I happened to find this guy out in the field on a trip. It's a beautiful crowbar. Kind of heavy, but you know, having it in your arsenal for when you need to really haul some big equipment in, this is the ticket. This guy works miracles. And then the Super Sucker. You've heard me talk so much about this guy. He's my favorite besides this guy. These are my 2 favorite toys. So this thing is so effective. The combination of a shovel and a Super Sucker and a sluice, you're deadly. If there's gold there, you're taking it home. So now that you've processed your gold, and don't forget, you want to keep your feet dry, or at least if it's cold out. So rubber boots are always a good call. So now that you've run a bunch of gold, you've got to put it somewhere. Well, what I do is I put it in a pan. I take this guy here, who's covered in gold, take some water, pour it in there, it goes into here. So then at the end of the day, rather than snuffer bottle it out, so this is optional too, you don't need a snuffer. Rather than snuffer it out all day long, I just throw it in here. Pour out the water and take home the concentrate and play with it at home. It's all about time savings. You can snuffer it. I will take the big pieces just because the eye candy you got to take home. So this guy's optional too. I put the big pieces in a plastic jar like this. I like the wide mouth so you can get your finger in there, because gold will slip off your finger. You got to watch it. So it's good to get your whole finger in there to make sure, and this will be full of water. That way you'll know it's going into your little vial. So this is in the optional category. It's going bye-bye. And let's say you want to do some crevicing. So these aren't the ideal tools. They got a screwdriver. They sell fancy tools. These wire brushes from Harbor Freight are pretty effective. So between this, a big pry bar to pry rocks apart, and a screwdriver scratch out the cracks, and this, you can get out some pretty good crevice material. So this would work. And then you can always, scoop it into a small pan like this, depending on how much material you're playing with. And the small pan is kind of an optional thing too. You don't really need it in the field. It's good for final cleanup when you just want less surface area. So we're going to put this in the optional category too. Okay, so when you get down to it, this is kind of what you need. Now there's two pieces I didn't tell you about, so let's talk about these. So this guy, he's metal. It's a mortar and pestle. If you want to play with bedrock in the field that you think might have gold in it, you can crush it up with this and pan it out with this. And that way you'll be able to test lode gold in the field if you're curious. So this is super optional. It's kind of heavy. So I'm going to put this in the you don't need category. Clearly you don't need it for placer gold. This is for lode gold. So this goes bye-bye. So now that your feet are warm and dry, you better get your material out, or your equipment out to your work site. So why don't we use a backpack? So make sure your backpack can hold your equipment. So these guys stack nicely. See, they all stack within the classifier. Look at that, they go right in there. Along with this, these little bad boys. This guy goes in here. So we got these all bundled up. Put them on your back. You know where the boots go. I'm not going to put them on for you. You can figure that part out. So these guys stack nicely. Look at this. So now you can carry them. You're not going to lose them. So if you have a little tie on there, you got that. And you got that. So now we are loaded for bear, or in our case, nuggets. We're going to go out and get some nuggets. So that's the basics for what you need for gold. There's lots of different ways to do it. There's lots of different equipment out in the market. But I found this is to be the setup that I use the most often. So each outing's a little different. So there are subtle variations, but you need a basic kit. I would tell you the kit we just ran through is probably a good starting point. You'll find as you go through your gold career that you're going to buy things like that expensive Keen sluice. You'll never use it, but I love this guy, so wish I didn't spend the $450 for that when I only use this, because you can buy this separately from Keen. But this baby, he's a game changer. So anyways, that's just the trial and error process of gold equipment. It's a learning process. Everybody's going to have a different twist on it, but that's how I do it. So comparing the VMAT between the Royales sluice on the right here and the Keen on the left, you can see the difference. The Royale is much coarser and the Keen is much finer. So as I've said, the Keen sluice is super competent, actually up to 100% effective in removing gold. The Royale sluice, I haven't found the indicator to really even hold gold. So it might work. I guess with really coarse gold it would work, but with the kind of gold that I typically find, it doesn't seem to be super effective. So once again, this is a really great indicator mat. The sluice body of the Keen sluice is almost 4 feet long. It's the A52S sluice. It retails for $550 today. It's by Keen Engineering. It has a surface grading whereby you can dump really coarse material, unclassified, and the way it works is the different gradations fall through the different slots and then go through the riffles down below. So you can see underneath you got indicator matting up there, expanded wire, some plastic riffles, standard metal riffles, even got miner's moss underneath. So it's got pretty much every type of trap you can imagine, and it's got legs. So these legs telescope down, and you can set it in different depths of water to get the proper flow depth. So it's super versatile. It's well engineered, well thought out, but once again, it's for really serious work. If you're going to be processing large volumes, you don't want to classify, this is the ticket. If you're interested in the sluice, I'm going to sell it because I don't use it. So contact me and maybe we can make a deal.